What if the things you are trying so hard to chase are already on their way to you, but your own rush and need for control are quietly blocking them? In the teachings of the Buddha, a person only truly loses what they cling to. In a world that constantly pushes us to be faster, stronger, and achieve immediate results, there is a very quiet truth that is often forgotten. Life does not respond to effort alone. It responds to the state of the mind. Right now, what may be exhausting you is not a crisis or an external situation, but the silent resistance within you. Ask yourself this: how much peace are you trading just to pursue a sense of progress that has never quite arrived? This video invites you to look again at the way you are striving, waiting, and trying to control your life. Not to give up, but to understand more deeply what letting go truly means in Buddhist wisdom. So that when you stop forcing everything to happen according to your will, the things that are meant for you can gradually find space to arrive. If you remember only one thing, remember this: you do not need to chase what already belongs to you. That is all you need to know in life. And stay until the end. There is a meaningful lesson waiting for you. Principle 1. Let go like the sky releases the storm. When the sky breaks into a storm, dark clouds gather, thunder roars, lightning flashes, and rain pours down fiercely. Yet the sky does not try to hold the storm. It does not cling to the thunder or replay the lightning. When the rain has fallen enough, the clouds dissolve on their own, and the space returns to clarity, as if the chaos had never existed. In the teachings of the Buddha, the human mind is like that sky. Suffering does not arise because emotions appear, but because we cling to them and refuse to let them pass. Most of us believe that control is strength. We try to control our plans, our emotions, our future, even how others see us. We call it ambition, responsibility, the effort to move forward. But when we look more deeply, much of this control is simply fear wearing the mask of effort. Fear of failure, fear of being left behind, fear that everything will collapse if we loosen our grip. The Buddha taught that this very clinging is the root of suffering, not because life is too heavy, but because our hands are holding too tightly. When we resist reality, conflict arises within. One part wants to let go, another part is afraid to do so. We spend our energy every day trying to keep everything exactly as we want it. The more we try to control, the tighter the mind becomes. The more we organize, the more restless the heart feels. We are like someone pushing a heavy boulder upstream, believing that if we stop for even a second, everything will slip out of our hands. But peace is never found on the far side of force. Letting go in Buddhism is not abandonment or escape. It is the wisdom of knowing what is ours to do and what is not. You plant the seed, water it, and care for the soil. But you do not shout at the seed to make it grow faster. A river does not need to force itself toward the ocean. It simply follows the land, bends through its turns, and eventually arrives where it needs to go. When you fully do your part and then pause and trust, the result comes when conditions are ready. Take a look at your life right now. Is there something you are trying to hold on to with worry? A relationship that has already changed? An image of yourself that no longer fits? A plan that no longer nourishes you as it once did? Each time you tighten your grip on these things, your body speaks up. Your shoulders grow heavy, your breath shortens, your mind becomes unsettled. These are signs that you are moving against the natural flow of life. Letting go is like the sky after the rain. Nothing special needs to be done. You only need to stop holding on. When you allow emotions to come and go, when you stop arguing with the present moment, a gentle space opens up. In that space, clarity appears. You begin to see what needs to be done and what can be left alone. Not because you are weaker, but because fear is no longer leading you. Ask yourself honestly, what am I trying to control that no longer serves me? And if today I loosen my grip just a little, what would feel lighter in my heart? That moment of release does not diminish you. It returns you to a deep trust that life knows how to adjust itself. When the mind no longer resists, You walk more steadily, more slowly, and with enough awareness to recognize what is arriving. Principle 2. Observe your mind like a still lake. In the teachings of the Buddha, peace does not come from removing thoughts, but from the ability to see them clearly. Most people live their entire lives inside their minds, yet have never truly observed them. Thoughts arise, emotions appear, reactions follow, all happening very quickly. We are swept along without realizing what is actually guiding us. And it is this lack of awareness that leaves the mind constantly exhausted. Imagine a lake at night when there is no wind. The surface is so still that it reflects the sky and the moon perfectly. But with just a gentle breeze, the image immediately trembles and distorts. The human mind is the same. When it is stirred by anxiety, expectation, and fear, we no longer see things as they truly are. We only see images bent by an unsettled mind. One of the greatest misunderstandings is believing that we are our thoughts. When a thought appears, we take it as truth. When an emotion rises, we believe it defines who we are. But the Buddha pointed out that thoughts and emotions are only phenomena of arising and passing away. They come and they go. The awareness that recognizes them is deeper and more stable. There is an important question you can ask yourself in moments of tension. Am I observing these thoughts, or am I being carried away by them? When you are carried away, you lose freedom. When you observe, you gain distance. And in that distance, peace begins to appear. Observing the mind is not about trying to control it. It is not about forcing it to be silent. It is simply mindful presence. When a thought comes, you know it is coming. When it stays, you know it is staying. When it leaves, you know it is leaving. No judgment is needed. No explanation is required. Just seeing. At first, you may feel that your mind is very noisy, one thought following another. There is nothing wrong with this. In truth, the mind has always been this way. You simply had not seen it clearly before. When you begin to observe, you start to notice this continuous flow. And this very noticing is the first step toward freedom. In Buddhism, mindfulness is not about achieving a special state. It is simply knowing what is happening. When you know that you are anxious, anxiety no longer controls you completely. When you know that you are afraid, fear begins to soften, not because you defeated it, but because you no longer identify yourself with it. This practice is very simple, though it requires patience. Each day, set aside 5 to 10 minutes. Sit still, spine upright, shoulders relaxed. Let the breath move naturally. When thoughts arise, do not follow them and do not push them away. Let them pass like leaves floating on water. The lake does not need to do anything for the leaves to drift away. It simply remains still. Gradually, you will discover something profound. Thoughts come and go. Emotions arise and fade. But awareness is always there. Quiet. Unmoving. When you touch this awareness, the mind no longer pulls you so easily. You become steadier amid the changes of life. Observing the mind is like standing on the riverbank watching the water flow. The river continues to move, but you are no longer panicked. And in that stillness, wisdom begins to arise. Principle 3. Align your energy like a compass finds north. In the teachings of the Buddha, the outer world is not separate from inner life. What you encounter does not come only from what you do, but also from the state of mind you carry each day. Like a compass, when it is not disturbed, the needle naturally points north. The human mind is the same. When it is shaken by fear, restlessness, and a lack of trust, the direction of life quietly drifts off course without us realizing it. Many people believe that if they try hard enough, life will change. They do more, move faster, push themselves harder. Yet the more they strive, the more exhausted they become. In Buddhism, results do not come from action alone, but from complete conditions. You plant through your actions, but you harvest through your state of mind. If the inside is filled with tension and scarcity, then no matter how much you do, the outcome still feels heavy. The world reflects your inner state in a very subtle way. When you carry worry, you easily notice risks. When you live in gratitude, you naturally see what is supporting you. Not because the world has changed, but because the way you are present has changed. The Buddha taught that mind leads all phenomena. When the mind is adjusted, the path ahead becomes clearer on its own. Notice the moments when you say you want peace, yet inside you are constantly sending signals of unrest. You say you want abundance, but within there is a constant fear of lack. These states are not wrong. They are simply signs that balance has been lost. When a compass needle is shaken, it no longer points correctly. When the mind is unsettled, life responds with the same disturbance. What matters is not forcing yourself to think positively, but returning to presence. When you pause, breathe deeply, and truly arrive in this moment, the mind begins to settle. And when the mind settles, direction naturally realigns. There is no need to try harder. No need to control more. Only a return to the right place within. There is a very simple practice you can do right now. Place one hand on your chest, where you can feel your heartbeat. Close your eyes for a few seconds. Ask quietly inside, what state am I sending out right now? Rushed or calm? Fearful or trusting? Lacking or sufficient? There is no need to answer with words. Just feel. When you notice tension, do not blame yourself. Simply breathe a little deeper. When you notice worry, allow yourself to slow down. Each deep breath is a small adjustment. Each moment of presence is a time when the compass needle returns to its true direction. You do not need to wait for life to change before finding peace. Peace itself creates change. In Buddhism, gratitude is a powerful state. When you are grateful for what is present, the mind stops running toward lack. When the mind stops running, energy gathers back within. You begin to live fully in the present moment instead of constantly searching in the future. And when you are fully present, life responds with harmony. Adjusting your state is not a miracle. It is a return to the breath, a return to the body, a return to what is happening now. When you live this way, you no longer push life forward, nor are you dragged by it. You walk with life. Just as a compass finds north again when it is no longer disturbed, when your mind becomes steady, the direction of your life naturally becomes clear. You do not need to force anything to arrive. What is meant for you will find you when you are already in the right place within. Principle 4. Trust the river, even when you cannot see the ocean. There are seasons in life when you stand at a crossroads and cannot see the next path. Everything feels unclear, slow, and without any obvious sign that you are moving in the right direction. In moments like these, the mind often panics. It wants proof. It wants results. It wants to know in advance what will happen. But in the teachings of the Buddha, uncertainty is not weakness. It is the place where trust is born. Look at a river. It does not see the ocean when it begins flowing from the mountains. It does not know how many bends it will take, how many rocks it will meet, or how long the journey will be. Yet the river does not stop to demand guarantees. It simply keeps flowing, and precisely because it does not resist its movement, it always arrives where it needs to go. Human beings are different. We want to see results before we take a step. We want certainty before we trust. When we do not see signs of progress, we begin to doubt ourselves. We worry that we are wasting time. We fear that if we keep going, things will not turn out as we hope. But this addiction to proof is what unsettles the mind and makes our steps heavy. In Buddhism, the process matters more than the outcome. Causes and conditions work quietly. There are things that need time to form. Things the eyes cannot yet see. The story of bamboo is a powerful example. In the early years, the bamboo seed is watered and cared for consistently, yet nothing appears above the ground. To an outsider, there is only empty soil. But beneath the surface, the roots are spreading, anchoring deeply, preparing for strong growth later on. By the 5th year, bamboo can rise rapidly in a short period of time. This growth is not sudden. It is the result of years of silent preparation. If the person tending the bamboo gave up early because no results were visible, the plant would never have the chance to grow. Your life is the same. There are phases when it seems as though nothing is happening. But that does not mean you are standing still. Inside, you are learning, transforming, building foundations. The Buddha taught that all things require sufficient conditions to bear fruit. When conditions are not yet complete, forcing only creates more tension. Trusting the river does not mean giving up. You still take each step. You still do your part, but you do not demand that life immediately prove that you are right. You allow yourself to keep moving without seeing the entire path. This trust lightens the mind. And when the mind is light, you are no longer exhausted by waiting. Ask yourself this. If today you did not need proof, how would you walk forward? Would you slow down? Would you breathe more deeply? Would you compare yourself less to others? When you stop demanding guarantees, you begin to live more honestly with the present moment. The practice of this lesson is very simple. Whenever you feel anxious because results have not yet appeared, return to the next step. Not a big step, just the next one. Do what needs to be done today with full presence. Then pause. Do not force. Do not rush. Just as the river does not need to see the ocean to keep flowing, you do not need to see the future to continue. When you trust the process, you stop resisting the flow of life. And within that trust, you are supported in a very natural way. Principle 5. Be empty like the bamboo. In the teachings of the Buddha, much suffering does not come from a lack of things, but from being too full. Full of desire, full of expectation, full of ideas about the self and how life should unfold according to our will. When the mind is already crowded, even when something good arrives, there is no space left to receive it. Like bamboo, its strength does not lie in what is solid, but in the emptiness within. Because it is hollow, bamboo can bend with the wind without breaking. Human beings are often afraid of emptiness. We fear letting go because we believe letting go means losing. We fear not holding on because we think that without control, everything will collapse. But in Buddhism, letting go is not indifference. Letting go is inner freedom. It is no longer being pulled by the need to prove we are right, to be recognized, to maintain a certain image in the eyes of others. There is a story often told in the Zen tradition. A student came to a teacher wanting to learn the way. He spoke endlessly about what he knew, what he had studied, what he had read. The teacher quietly poured tea. He kept pouring until the tea overflowed the cup. The student hurriedly stopped him and said the cup was already full. The teacher smiled and said the student's mind was just like that cup. If it is not emptied, how can anything new be added? Before learning, empty your cup. That story is not only about knowledge. It is about an attitude toward life. When your mind is full of fixed views, judgments, and old stories, you no longer truly meet the present moment. You only meet yourself in familiar forms. The Buddha taught that the ego is the source of suffering. Not because the ego is evil, but because we cling to it as a fixed identity. To be empty like bamboo is to be willing not to know. Willing to listen. Willing not to be right in every conversation. When you do not need to win, you become lighter. When you do not need to prove yourself, you become free. And in that lightness, wisdom finally has space to arise. Look at your daily life. How many times are you tired not because of what you do, but because you are trying to protect your image? How many times do you feel tense simply because you want to be understood, accepted, agreed with? These things take up a great deal of space in the mind. And when the mind is this full, peace cannot enter. Emptiness does not mean abandoning responsibility. You still work. You still love. You still show up. But you no longer carry the burden of controlling outcomes. You do your best, then allow life to continue its part. Like bamboo standing in the wind, not resisting, not clinging. You can practice emptiness through very small actions. In a conversation, try not needing to have the last word. Try not correcting the other person. Try listening fully without preparing a response. When you are alone, place your phone aside. Sit quietly for a few minutes, doing nothing, searching for nothing. At first, you may feel uncomfortable because the mind is used to being constantly filled. But if you are patient, you will discover that emptiness is not frightening. It creates space. In that space, your breath deepens, your awareness sharpens. You are no longer pulled by so much inner noise. And in that moment, you begin to recognize what truly matters to you. The Buddha did not teach us to accumulate in order to be happy. He taught us to release in order to be free. When you are empty like bamboo, life can move through you more gently, and what truly belongs to you will find a place to remain. Principle 6. Let stillness be your thunder. The modern world runs on speed. Sound follows sound. Notifications follow notifications. People are used to reacting instantly, as if slowing down for even a moment means being left behind. But in the teachings of the Buddha, true power does not lie in noise or constant movement. It lies in stillness. Stillness is not emptiness. Stillness is where the deepest energy is gathered. Look at muddy water. When you stir it, the water becomes even cloudier. But when you let it be, the sediment settles and the water naturally becomes clear. The human mind is the same. When you move too fast, think too much, and react too quickly, you cannot see what is really happening. Not because life is chaotic, but because your mind has never stayed still long enough to see. Many people are afraid of stillness. When there is no outer noise, they begin to hear the inner one. Unanswered questions, unfaced fears, ignored exhaustion, and so they fill every gap with activity, with noise, with motion. But the Buddha taught that only when the mind stops does wisdom have space to appear. There is a Zen story that has been passed down. A student came to a teacher asking about truth. He asked many questions and spoke endlessly. The teacher simply sat in silence. As time passed, the silence became uncomfortable. Finally, the student grew impatient and asked why the teacher would not answer. The teacher then said that while the student was still full of noise, he was not ready to listen. Silence was not avoidance. It was the deepest teaching. Stillness is like thunder that does not need to make a sound. It is quiet, yet deeply powerful. When you are fully present in stillness, your presence becomes grounded. You do not need to speak much. You do not need to prove anything. Simply being there is enough to have an effect. This is the power the Buddha called concentration. When the mind is tangled, we try to solve it by thinking more. But the more we think, the more tangled it becomes. When water is muddy, we try to strain it or fix it, but every effort only stirs it further. The only way for water to clear is to stop stirring. The only way for the mind to become clear is to stop running. Stillness does not come from forceful effort. It comes from stopping. You do not need to leave your life behind to practice stillness. You only need to create very small pauses. Before replying to a difficult message, stop and take 5 slow breaths. Before entering a meeting, feel your feet touching the ground. When walking, try walking without listening to anything, without holding your phone, simply feeling each step. These moments allow the mind to settle without changing your schedule. Morning is especially important. If you begin the day by rushing to check notifications, the mind is immediately pulled outward. But if you give yourself a few moments of stillness before touching the screen, the entire day feels different. Stillness does not slow you down. It helps you move in the right direction. In Buddhism, stillness is not the opposite of action. It is the foundation of right action. When you act from stillness, you are not driven by reaction. You see more clearly what needs to be done and what can be left alone. You do not waste energy on unnecessary conflict. At first, stillness may feel uncomfortable. The mind is used to constant stimulation. But if you stay with that discomfort, you will discover beneath it a deep sense of ease. A place where there is no rush, no noise, no need to become someone else. Let stillness be your thunder. Not loud, but steady. Not noisy, but powerful. When you live from this place, you no longer chase life. Life meets you in that calm. Principle 7. Heal the inner mirror. In the teachings of the Buddha, the world you experience is always reflecting your inner state. When a mirror is covered in dust, the image it shows becomes distorted and dim, not because the world outside has worsened, but because the surface of reflection has been obscured. The human mind is the same. When we carry old wounds and limiting beliefs about our worth, life responds by mirroring exactly what we believe about ourselves. Many people say they want peace, abundance, and love. Yet deep inside, they believe they are not good enough, not deserving, not truly capable. The Buddha taught that the mind leads all phenomena. When foundational beliefs are wounded, every outer effort becomes exhausting. You cannot receive what you do not believe you deserve. Sometimes you try to fix the world around you. You change jobs, shift relationships, set new goals. Yet the emptiness returns. This is a sign that the issue does not lie in circumstances, but in your relationship with yourself. When the inner mirror is cracked, the outer image cannot be clear. In Buddhism, healing does not begin with becoming perfect. It begins with acceptance. Accepting that you are tired. Accepting that you carry wounds. Accepting that you have done your best with the conditions you were given. When you stop treating yourself as a problem that needs fixing, the space for healing opens. There is a story about a woman who spent many years trying to control everything in her life. Her work, her relationships, her future. The more she tried, the more exhausted she became. One day, while sitting quietly, she asked why nothing ever seemed to last. A very soft voice inside answered, "Because you still believe you are not enough." In that moment, she did not change her life. She changed the way she saw herself. And from there, everything began to shift. Healing the inner mirror is not about covering it with forced positive words. It is about looking directly at the judging voice in your mind and changing how you relate to it. When the mind says you are not enough, listen with gentleness. Do not argue. Do not suppress it. Simply recognize that it is an old habit, not an absolute truth. You can practice healing in very simple ways. Each day, take a few minutes to write down the thoughts that keep repeating in your mind. Do not edit. Do not judge. Just notice. Then sit quietly for a few minutes, following your breath, allowing body and mind to settle. In that stillness, you will begin to hear a deeper, softer voice beneath the familiar noise. One important practice is changing self-talk. When you notice yourself speaking harshly to yourself, pause. Place a hand on your chest. Remind yourself with one simple sentence, "I am already enough." Not to convince yourself, just to remember. To remember that you do not need to prove your worth through suffering. In Buddhism, compassion is not only directed outward. It first returns to yourself. When you learn to see yourself with understanding and kindness, the inner mirror is slowly cleaned. And as the mirror clears, the outer world begins to reflect differently. You no longer chase validation. You no longer force yourself to become someone else. Healing foundational beliefs is not something done in a single day. But each time you choose gentleness over judgment, you repair the mirror a little, and little by little, the image you see in your life becomes brighter and clearer. Principle 8. Think lightly like a feather. In the teachings of the Buddha, most human suffering does not come from what is actually happening, but from what the mind imagines. The mind has a very subtle habit. It believes that if it worries enough, thinks far enough ahead, and prepares thoroughly enough, then it will be safe. But the truth is that the more we think, the heavier the mind becomes. The more we analyze, the more restless the heart feels. The sense of safety that worry promises is only an illusion. Imagine a feather resting on the surface of water. It does not sink, not because it tries to stay afloat, but because it carries no weight. The human mind is naturally just as light, but over time, we pile too many thoughts onto it. Fears that have not happened, scenarios that are not real, possibilities that may come but have not arrived. And then we wonder why we feel so exhausted. The Buddha taught that there is only one moment that is real, this moment. When the mind runs into the future, searching for certainty, it abandons the present. And when the present is abandoned, we lose our footing. There is a simple yet profound question that can bring the mind back. Right now, what is real? Many people live in fear of bridges they have never reached. They imagine the bridge might collapse. They imagine they will not make it across. Night after night, they lose sleep over this fear. But when the day finally comes, when they actually stand before the bridge, they discover that it is as solid as any other bridge. All those nights of worry prepared them for nothing except exhaustion. This is how overthinking works. It drains energy to solve problems that do not yet exist. It convinces us that we are being proactive, when in reality, we are being pulled by fear. In Buddhism, wisdom does not lie in thinking more. It lies in seeing more clearly. When you notice that your mind is running too far ahead, do not blame it. The mind is only trying to protect you in the way it has learned, but you can gently guide it back. Instead of asking what will happen, ask what is happening. Instead of building more scenarios, feel the breath as it enters and leaves the body. Instead of searching for escape in thought, return to the body that is sitting here now. This practice can be very simple. When you notice your head filled with thoughts, pause. Stop for a moment. Take one deep breath. Feel your feet touching the ground. Then return to what you are doing. There is no need to solve everything. No need to have answers right away. Just return. There is one important thing to remember. Lightness does not mean irresponsibility. Lightness means not carrying unnecessary weight. When you think lightly, you still act. But fear is no longer the engine driving you. You do what needs to be done, then allow the results to unfold according to conditions. The Buddha did not teach us to escape life. He taught us to release what is not real. Thoughts about futures that have not happened. Repetitive worries that bring no clarity. When you set them down, the mind naturally becomes lighter. And when the mind is light, you can see more clearly what truly needs care in this moment. Each time you recognize an imagined problem, you lift a burden from yourself. Each time you choose to return to the present, you place the feather back on the water. It does not sink, it does not resist, it simply rests. Let your mind relearn how to be light. Light enough to see, light enough to live, light enough to not be pulled away by fears that have never taken shape. When the mind is light like a feather, life does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be real. Principle 9. Wait for the bloom like a lotus. In the teachings of the Buddha, there are seasons in life when nothing seems to move forward clearly. No immediate results. No confirming signs. These periods often make people anxious and wondering where they have gone wrong. But delay is not always rejection. Very often it is silent preparation that the eyes cannot yet see. Delays are not denials. Look at the lotus. It does not bloom on dry ground. It is born from mud. Dark, wet, heavy, and unattractive mud. Yet it is precisely this environment that nourishes the roots of the lotus and gives the stem the strength to rise. Without mud, the lotus cannot bloom. In Buddhism, mud is not an obstacle to the flower. Mud is the condition that allows the flower to exist. Human beings often confuse slow with wrong. When we do not see results, we believe we are falling behind. When things have not yet blossomed, we think we have missed our chance. But the Buddha taught that all things operate according to causes and conditions. When conditions are not yet complete, the fruit cannot appear. Forcing speed only breaks the process. Many people look at the lives of others and see flowers blooming, success, peace, stability. Then they look back at themselves and see only mud, disappointment, confusion, unclear direction. This comparison doubles suffering, not only suffering from circumstances, but suffering from rejecting one's own path. The lotus does not look at other flowers to bloom faster. It grows according to its own rhythm. Each lotus grows in mud of a different depth. Some need more time for the roots to anchor firmly. Some need more seasons of rain to gather enough nourishment. No lotus is wrong for blooming later. Only human beings hastily label slowness as failure. In Buddhism, patience is not waiting with tension. Patience is staying with the present without resisting it. It is continuing to care for what is yours to do without demanding immediate results. When you water a seed, you do not stare at the soil every day to check. You trust the process. There are phases in your life when you are taking root. You are learning to understand yourself. You are loosening old beliefs. You are building a new foundation for a different way of living. These processes are quiet. They are unseen, but they are real. And if you give up simply because you have not yet seen the flower, you leave just before the moment of blooming. Ask yourself honestly, what in your life needs more time? Not more pressure, not more comparison, just more space to grow. When you allow yourself to be in the mud without despising yourself, you create the conditions for the inner lotus. The practice of this lesson is to stop comparing. Each time you catch yourself admiring someone else's flower and criticizing your own mud, pause. Remind yourself that you are in the right stage. Not early, not late, just right. Then return to what needs to be done today. Very small, but enough. Patience is a deep form of wisdom. It says you trust the process even when results are not visible. It says you do not need to prove your worth through speed. In Buddhism, one who knows how to wait is one who understands conditions. The lotus does not try to bloom. When conditions are complete, it opens naturally. Your life is the same. When you stop forcing, stop rejecting yourself, and continue to care from within, the moment of blooming will come. Quietly, but clearly. Allow yourself to stay with the mud when needed. Without comparison, without panic, without self-blame. Because it is precisely this place that seems slow that is preparing a beauty you have never seen in yourself before. Principle 10. Let life happen like clouds. In the teachings of the Buddha, everything in life carries the nature of impermanence. No state lasts forever, whether joy or sorrow. Yet people suffer not because of change itself, but because they resist it. We want to hold on to what feels pleasant and push away what feels uncomfortable. That resistance is what makes the mind heavy. When you learn to let life unfold like clouds drifting across the sky, the burden begins to lighten. Look up at the sky. Clouds appear, change shape, and then dissolve. No cloud stays forever. The sky does not try to keep the beautiful clouds, nor does it chase away the dark ones. It allows everything to pass through. The human mind has this same capacity, but we often forget it. When an emotion arises, we label it good, bad, acceptable, unacceptable, and from that moment, suffering begins. The Buddha taught that whatever arises will pass away. This too shall pass. Not to comfort us, but to remind us that nothing needs to be clung to or feared excessively. When you believe a state will last forever, panic begins. When you remember that it will pass, your breathing becomes easier. Think of someone who has worked beyond their limits for many years. Work pressure, social expectations, family responsibilities. At first, they believe they just need to push a little harder. But eventually, the body speaks. The mind becomes exhausted. Burnout appears. Instead of listening, they resist. They blame themselves. They force themselves to stay strong. And that resistance makes everything heavier. If that person could see their emotions like clouds, everything would change. Fatigue is present. Tension is present. There is no need to fix it immediately. No need to conclude anything. Just see it. When you allow emotions to exist without labeling or resisting them, they begin to change. Not because you do something, but because you stop holding them in place. In Buddhism, non-resistance does not mean passivity. It is wise acceptance. Accepting that emotions are here. Accepting that circumstances are as they are. From that acceptance, wisdom has space to arise. When you are no longer busy fighting reality, you can respond more gently. Observing emotions like clouds is a very concrete practice. When a strong emotion appears, pause. Notice that it is there. There is no need to call it good or bad. Simply recognize it. Then bring attention to the breath. Breathing in, breathing out. Do not try to make the emotion disappear. Just breathe. Just as the sky does nothing to make clouds dissolve, it simply remains open. You will begin to notice that emotions have their own cycles. They come, they stay, then they go. When you do not interfere, the cycle moves more quickly and lightly. When you resist, it lasts longer and feels heavier. This is something many people experience when they begin practicing mindfulness. There are days when the sky is clear. There are days when clouds are thick. Both are. There comes a moment in life when you realize that if you keep waiting for everything to be certain, you will wait forever. Not because the path never opens, but because your mind remains standing at the doorway. In the teachings of the Buddha, trust is not vague hope. Trust is the willingness to step forward without seeing the entire path. Living as if you already trust is not giving up. It is a deeply mindful choice. Many people say they will believe when they see results. They will move when there are clear signs. But life rarely works that way. If you wait until everything feels certain before you begin, you will miss many moments of living. The Buddha taught that wisdom does not come from controlling the future, but from fully inhabiting the step you are taking right now. Look at a bird standing on a branch. It does not know exactly how the wind will blow. It does not measure the space ahead. But when the moment comes, it leaps. Not because it is certain, but because it trusts its wings. The trust is not loud. It is quiet. And precisely because of that, it is strong. A river is the same. It does not need to see the ocean in order to keep flowing. If the river stopped because it could not yet see its destination, it would never leave its source. But because it trusts its natural direction, it continues to bend through each curve, unhurried, unafraid, and eventually it arrives. Living as if you already trust does not mean pretending that everything is fine. It means not allowing fear to govern every decision. You may still worry. You may still feel uncertain, but you do not let those feelings freeze you in place. You allow yourself to move forward, even if the step is small, even if it is slow. In Buddhism, action is guided by mindfulness and deep trust in causes and conditions. When you live in a state of trust, you do not need to push life. You do what needs to be done with a clear mind. You speak what needs to be spoken with a calm heart. You pause when necessary without blaming yourself. This kind of trust does not make you careless. It keeps you from becoming paralyzed. Many people are exhausted not because they do too much, but because they live in a state of tense waiting. Waiting for a sign, waiting for a guarantee, waiting for a perfect moment. But the perfect moment rarely arrives. Only the present moment is always here. Living as if you already trust means shifting from waiting to stepping. Not a reckless step, but a present one. You do not need to change your entire life in a single day. You only need to change how you enter today, with less defense, with more presence. Try to imagine what a day would feel like if you believed everything was moving in the right direction. Would you speak differently? How would you work? Would you rush less? Compare yourself less? Doubt yourself less? This question is not meant to be answered by logic. It is meant to be felt. In Buddhism, the deepest trust is not placed in an external force, but in the working of causes and conditions, and in your own capacity for awareness. When you trust that you can meet whatever arises, you no longer need to control everything. You know that whatever comes, you can learn how to respond. The practice of this lesson is very concrete. Each morning, before beginning your day, ask yourself one question. What would I do today if I trusted that everything is going in the right direction? Then choose one small action from that answer. It does not need to be big. It does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be real. When you live as if you already trust, you no longer stand on the sidelines of life. You step into the current. You may still feel fear. You may still feel doubt, but you do not let them decide for you. And through these steps, Trust slowly becomes a lived experience, no longer just an idea. The Buddha did not teach us to wait for life to change before finding peace. He taught us to live with a trusting mind right here in the present. When you can do that, you do not need to force the future to arrive. The future will find its way to you through each honest step you take today. We have just walked through 11 principles and one bonus lesson, but you do not need to remember everything at once. What matters most is the shared spirit running through all of these teachings. Peace is not a reward waiting at the end of the path. Peace is the power that helps you walk the right path from the very beginning. You have seen that suffering arises from clinging and lightness comes from letting go. You learn to observe the mind instead of reacting, to adjust your inner state before expecting the outer world to change. You were reminded that uncertainty is not weakness, and that slowing down is not the same as failure. You saw the value of emptiness to receive, of stillness to gain clarity, and of action that arises from peace rather than panic. You learned to let emotions come and go like clouds, and to keep walking with trust even when you cannot see the entire road ahead. If you choose only one thing to practice starting today, choose to return to stillness. Because in Buddhism, a calm mind is a strong mind. When the mind is no longer pulled in every direction, you do not need to force life to follow your will. You live with more clarity, more gentleness, and enough awareness to respond at the right moment. If this video offered you even a brief moment of quiet, please press like to help share that energy. And if you wish to continue walking alongside Buddhist teachings that support healing and balance, consider subscribing to the channel. Before you leave, take a moment to write one short line in the comments. Today I choose peace.